What's up? We're back and we're blessed with glorious purpose overviewing episode 4, delving into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, go watch it. You need to watch it and then come back. Nick, let's get right into it. And I think there's no way to go around it. I mean, what's going on with the timekeepers, right? We build up this whole episode of getting to see the timekeepers and Sylvie or Loki, I can't remember who, throws the sword at its head and just they laugh as it tumbles to the ground.
Yeah.
It's an android. I
Mhm.
mean, talk about completely flipping the character's whole goal on their head.
Mhm.
This whole like idea of a false goal. What was your reaction to that moment?
It was I was caught off guard as anyone, but like a second later, I was like, it makes total sense the way they did this. It's like one of those like it's those twists, but like a second later, you're like, oh, I should have seen this coming, just because like just the way it just made like sense and context and like I don't know, I was really excited when the stinger in the beginning when Ravonna Red Slayer like walks in and you see their like silhouettes, and I was like, oh, so Jonathan Majors, one of them must be you, assumedly. And then I saw them, and I thought the episode was gonna cut, but like before the elevator like took them up, because I was like, oh, what a perfect like cliffhanger. I didn't expect them to go through like a whole like fight and everything. And when I saw the timekeepers, I was like, oh wow, like they really just showed you guys. I'd expect it to be so upfront about it. Um, but I'm definitely like we know that in I'm definitely intrigued though, because in 2 years' time we're gonna see Kang the Conqueror. We know, Majors has already been casted for like a year or at least like 5 months at this point. So like I'm intrigued to see where this goes, because we know at least one of the supposed timekeepers, or at least connect timekeeper adjacent personas exists, will be making his debut. So what does this mean with the robots? I have no idea. I A part of me, the basic route would be that they're like placeholders for the real ones, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just there as like a puppet. It could also be that the TVA's this like Jay's purpose in so many ways, which I think will be a lot of fun going into episode 5 just to see, because there's so much beyond the timekeepers. There's gonna be so much like chaos and fallout from this particular episode. So, in a way, the reveal that the timekeepers, at least for right now, are just robots, are like is like amongst a bunch of other stuff that's happening.
Yeah. I knew something was off the second they got off that elevator, and there were 4 guards for the timekeepers. I was like, this doesn't seem right. You know what I mean? And it seems like I love the set design of that whole area. And it kind of has this infinite feeling that it keeps on going, like the whole TVA has. And I'm like, something's off here, right?
Yeah,
Because it's episode 4. This isn't the climax. This should be like the second act of the film, and we're already getting the timekeepers.
right.
Something that we thought we may never go up that golden elevator, I think, in the whole series.
Mhm.
Um, and it just seemed a little too easy. And it was. And I wasn't expecting it like that to be the android, but it makes sense if you think about it. The TVA is this massive place. Ravona is only a small part of that.
Right.
I mean, they probably have androids everywhere communicating with those people that they think are just their bosses. Now, I'm curious if Ravona knew that those were androids, or if she thought those were the actual timekeepers. So we have this whole interesting dynamic now between Ravona and Sylvie. Uh, Nick, what were your thoughts on Ravona both in that moment and then through the whole episode as well?
It's interesting because at the end, when she comes down from the it's weird because I thought she was living she was acknowledging the lie as much as, or she believed in the lie as much as anyone. But at the end there, the way like, because I remember being caught off guard in the final battle when she's like, when the timekeepers don't do anything, I was like, there's no way these Lokis, as skilled and powerful as they are no threats to the literal masters of time, and they're just sitting there. And Ravonna doesn't seem like bothered or like really like surprised at all. And the fact that she springs to like protect the timekeepers, like I feel like to some extent she is aware of what's really going on. We don't see her conversation with with them in the beginning. So when she goes to tell Owen Wilson later, like, oh, like I'm getting blamed and they're really pissed off, like she could be feeding him a bunch of BS for all we know. She could be spit like, she's only doing what she's told. And like in the comics, I know that Ravonna is Kang's like love interest or girlfriend or something. So like it very well could be set up that like she is Kang's, or if assuming the other two timekeepers are present as well, is she's their mouthpiece. So she's saying whatever needs to be said in the moment. So I think she knows. I think she's at the very least aware that she's not answering to like biological beings, and then whether or not she actually knows where her boyfriend is, I have no idea. But I do think she is like just somewhat aware of the truth of what's happening, of what's been happening.
Right. And we don't know. That's one of the things. We don't know if Kang is a timekeeper. Kang may not be a time. I'm not, don't quote me on this, but I don't believe Kang is a timekeeper in the comics. Um, Kang is a separate entity. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kang either doesn't have an involvement yet, or Kang is maybe someone who either assassinated or pulled some strings behind the scenes and has taken control of the TVA. We don't know what the whole history behind this organization is. And that's something I'm really curious to explore that definitely will, I think we'll go into in the next episode. I feel like we have to with only two left.
Yeah.
They got to start giving us more and more answers, because they gave us a ton of answers, but those answers, gave
Right.
us two more questions for each answer.
Right.
Um, can we talk about Mobius, man?
Yeah.
I love Mobius so much in this episode and just in the series overall. He's one of the few people that's always a step ahead of Loki. With that, there was like one exception where he was kind of not with Loki for half a second, but he gets it when Loki lies. I love how he manipulates him in that scene when they're talking about Sylvie being dead, and you see like the connection that Loki had with Sylvie.
Yeah.
Um, in Mobius's turn,
Mhm.
as he switches the little pads so he can see what happened to the other agent,
Mhm.
uh, I was just like, the turn feels so organic. It feels so seated, and it doesn't feel at all. It felt so real.
Right.
And then that moment where before he even has a chance to do anything, he just gets erased essentially. Well, not as we find out, maybe not necessarily erased, but
Yeah.
pruned.
Right.
What were your thoughts on that overall character arc within
I
the
think
episode?
I think for sure, like I remember Kevin Feige saying in the beginning, he's like, "Oh, like this Loki and Mobius are gonna be this like beloved duo," and like I was like, "Oh, they're entertaining." I was like, I don't know if they're like up there in my favorites, but that scene you were talking about where like Mobius is playing mind games with him, I thought that was generally, I was like, oh, okay, I see like the full, because I have enjoyed how Mobius has been able to like call Loki out when he's lying, and he's like not he hasn't been someone Loki has really put anything over really at all. And it's been very interesting to see them to develop, and I think both Hiddleston and Wilson were really great in that one scene, and to see them and to see him like go rescue Loki from the time cell he put him in. I thought that was really great. I'm more than certain he's coming back. I doubt they killed off Owen Wilson. Um, Only the two episodes left. There's going to be at least one last scene, or depending on what his future is, he's coming back, I'm sure.
Give my man a jet ski. That's all he needs. Um, I'll be really curious because episode 3, when Sylvie revealed they're all variants,
Right.
which you could kind of like, that was a theory, but it wasn't necessarily something that everyone was like, oh, that's what it must be.
Yeah.
Um, and then you get the pruning process. Like I started to be like, what does the pruning mean if they're all variants, right?
Yeah.
Because they probably are introduced the same way. So
Yeah.
does the but the pruning, at least to Loki, as we see in the post-credit scene, doesn't erase his mind.
Mhm.
It doesn't give him a blank slate. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious what the pruning process is
Yeah.
going forward. As we see Richard E. Grant show up in the other two Loki variants,
Right.
it just, and in what looks like a destroyed New York, with Avengers Tower in the background. That's what it looks like to me.
There's oh, you go. Oh yeah, you're back.
Oh, did I glitch out
Or
for a
you,
second?
yeah. Unless you were finished, I was gonna jump on the New
Yeah, go
York
ahead.
thing we saw. Well, I was gonna say we still have yet to see the frame behind me. Like there's still so much foot. I'm surprised at how much footage I remember like the Mandalorian season 2 trailer kept a lot like close to the chest, and I'm like, oh wow, like Loki's like there's still so much we haven't seen. Like I just want to know what the hell's happening like behind me. Like there's like
Yeah.
I just want that explained. Um as for the whole like post credit scene, it's definitely like I can only imagine like in the costume department Richard Grant just suiting up, because at least from when I've seen him, Richard Grant has always been like the imposing like figure. Now he's in like this really like goof, like not goofy but like just very golden age throwback costume. He seems to have a bit of a beer belly too. I was like, oh, this is gonna be ridiculous, but it's gonna be good. It's gonna be, because it's Richard E. Grant. And I remember hearing like rumors or theories like, oh, he's gonna be like an older Loki or whatever, and now we know it's true. I just didn't expect him in the get up, which is looks to be really interesting. Um, I don't know. I think it's gonna be very interesting, like just last two episodes, because you got to figure, unlike say Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like we knew like Sam Wilson was destined to become Captain America. We have no idea what's supposed to happen from here, dude. Like all we know is that supposedly one of the quote unquote timekeepers, or even if he isn't one, is supposed to show up in a movie 2 years from now. That's all we know, like going forward in terms of this series. So um I'm very interested to see what just goes on, because this episode really was like their um what's it called, like mid-level midpoint break, like everything seems lost type thing.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson is gone. Like I don't know. It's a very interesting scenario to see going forward. I'm anticipating the TVA to be full like riot mode by like episode 6, and Loki like leads a revolution. Maybe that's what's happening. Or like, he gets to be the good guy for once. I think that would be
Yeah.
pretty crazy big action sequence to go out on.
Well, who knows how many Loki variants are there? You could have an army of Lokis going into the
True.
TVA to cause chaos. I mean, it's what they're born to do. Am I right?
Right.
Uh, I wouldn't bet on Kang being in the series. The more and more this
Oh yeah,
show
no.
goes on, the less and less I think he's like involved at all with the TVA, and B is like one of the time. I'm kind of at the point where I don't think he's a timekeeper at all.
I
Like
think
I just think it's a different direction.
I anticipate there's going to be like a throwaway, not throwaway, but like a minor reference. Because again, to confirm Gugaman Bathara as a character connected to him, and then to confirm he's coming as a major villain, there has to be some sort of throwaway line. Like Ravonna is probably going to do something at the end. But yeah, I concur. Don't want to like get into a Doctor Strange, WandaVision situation.
Right.
So I anticipate. Yeah, I don't think he'll appear, but I think it'd be more of like a oh, he's out there acknowledgement type thing without really
Yeah.
saying it.
Yeah. That I think is definitely possible. And another thing I want to propose to people is that Ravonna is a variant,
Mhm.
almost certainly.
Yeah,
Um, so she could be a variant of the love interest of Kang's, but not actually be Kang's love interest, if that makes sense.
yeah, this is true.
Um, so I think there's a lot of stuff to consider with this whole TVA stuff. Nick, is there anything else you want to touch on before we head out?
I thought the Loki Sylvie like romance tease is probably the most out there the MCU has ever been. But like Mobius says something, and like it didn't like um it didn't like really like take me out. I had to bring it up because like Mobius says something like, of course this would make sense for you, and I'm like, yeah, actually, you know what, like I'm like, yeah, like I could roll with this. Like, it's the most like this is the most out there idea I think the MCU has presented thus far, and like I think it's like it makes so much sense in like a delirious like just delirious multiverse comic booky way. I like I've seen a lot of time travel craziness from the DC show Legends of Tomorrow on the CW, but like I was like, oh wow, like I've never like falling in love with yourself, but not really yourself. I'm like, that's definitely an interesting thing to do. And
Right.
I like Tom Hiddleston at the end when he's like very awkwardly trying to like um tell her. Reminded me of
Yeah.
Michael Keaton in the original Batman in a similar situation, and he's like just very like he has no idea what he's doing. I thought it was just a very like interesting twist to go throw in there for his character journey.
Yeah, and I think it was perfect timing for him to get pruned.
Yeah,
You know, the second that Sylvie doesn't kill Ravonna and she just knocks her out,
yeah,
I'm like, okay, she's coming back. She's not dead.
yeah.
You're just waiting for it. They're holding on the shots a little longer than you normally hold on a shot, and
Mhm.
you're like, they're trying to tell us something with the camera work,
It's the
and then it's just
classic. I have a bad feeling about this, and then it just happens.
yeah,
Um, that's I don't know. That's just gonna be all these different plot points. Mobius and his jet ski, Kang and maybe the TVA, Loki and so like this is like, however this gets wrapped up. I mean, I'm here for it. I'm
I
can't
yeah.
like I have to see how this gets because there's no way to anticipate how any of this like just like works out.
And there's one last thing we almost forgot when they're on Lamentus, I believe.
Yes.
Um, they're causing a Nexus event,
Yeah.
but there's no way of escaping that apocalypse.
Mhm.
So something about those two Lokis together has a power
Yeah.
that is so monumental to change the timeline that we have
Well,
no idea
I
what it
think that
is.
well that's what Mobius was saying. He's like it's to refer back to Legends of Tomorrow, one of the time travel rules they set up is like you can't interact with the past version of yourself or the timeline's gonna go like kaput. And I think a similar thing is happening. Like, oh, these two are like because like you see them at the end, they're holding hands, they're looking in each other's eyes, and that's when the timeline like starts to like spike. And I'm like, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe it's like their romance, like because Mobius again said, like you said, he's like, you two could bring down this entire like building. And I was like, oh, maybe like it's destined to be the Loki's just tearing this whole thing down.
Right, right. Because there's Mobius knows something about Loki that Loki doesn't, and Loki knows something about Loki and Sylvie that Sylvie doesn't.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we've
That
seen the
seems that
foreshadowing of Loki's power where he reverses a building last episode. Like,
right,
what could it be?
right.
I think that's a good spot to end off on. What do you guys think with all these theories that are just kind of spiraling through our heads after episode 4, which is a fantastic episode? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out.